What's going on, everybody? I'm Johnny Brook. Welcome back to another Crafted Workshop video. In this week's video, I'm going to show you how I built what is probably my biggest project to date, this live edge mid-century modern king-size bed. Absolutely love the way this thing came together. I built it to kind of match those nightstands I built a few months back. So it's got an ebonized frame, then it's got this gorgeous live edge oak slab as the headboard. Obviously, I think this is the focal point of the build. I really had no idea how beautiful this slab was going to be before I kind of cut into it, but I'm absolutely pumped that I went with this slab because this thing is gorgeous. Tons of character, ray flex, all kinds of weird, crazy grain. It just turned out gorgeous. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and let's go ahead and get started. The first step in this project was to start working on getting this massive slab, which I used for the headboard, cleaned up. So I cut the slab to rough length using my jigsaw on one end and my track saw on the other end. And as you might have noticed, this slab was extremely uneven in thickness from one end to the other, with the thicker end coming in at 3.5 inches, which was about 1.5 inches thicker than the other end. My track saw's max depth of cut is 2 3/4 inches, so after cutting as deep as I could with the track saw, I finished the cut with my Japanese pull saw. And these saws usually have two different teeth sets, one for cross cutting and one for ripping, and I realized about halfway through that I was using the wrong side. Definitely a lot easier to cut when you use the correct set of teeth. With the slab cut to rough length, next I decided to rip it down the center. And this would do a few things. First, this slab was so heavy that I really couldn't move it around by myself, so cutting it in half would make it much more manageable. Second, I wanted to face those live edges inwards on the headboard to give the finished bed a little bit more of a modern look. And last, this slab was cut very close to the pith of the tree, hence all of the cracking in the center of the slab, and by cutting it in half, it allowed me to remove some of that cracked area later. So once again, I had to finish the cut with the pull saw, and then I could start the arduous process of skip planing the slab. So my goal when skip planing was just to bring the two ends of the slab to roughly the same thickness. And the thinner end was about 1 7/8 inches, so I had about 1.5 inches of material to remove from that thicker end. And this process took a while, but I eventually got it roughly flattened, but not before emptying my dust collector bin multiple times. After skip planing, I let the slab rest for a few days to allow any movement to happen with those fresh faces exposed, and then I could get the slabs perfectly flat. To do this, I used my jointer, but since the slabs were wider than my jointer, a portion of the slab had to overhang the edge of the bed. And this also meant that I had to remove the guard, and if you decide to try this, be extremely careful when doing this. Make sure any loose clothing is tucked in, any long hair is pulled back, as things will go very bad if anything gets caught in that cutter head. As you can see, after flattening one portion of the slab, I was left with a ridge of unflattened area. The next step in the process was to plane the opposite side parallel at the planer, but I had to deal with that uneven edge somehow. And that's where the planer sled comes in. So a planer sled is just a simple piece of flat wood, usually some kind of sheet good like plywood or MDF, and you can attach the sled directly to the piece you're flattening, but since these slabs were fairly long, I instead added a little strip of plywood square to the sled so it could rest directly on the bed of the planer. And this allowed me to run the slabs through the planer with the flattened portion of the slab riding on the planer sled. After each pass, I would mark the entire top surface of the slab with pencil to see when that face had been completely flattened. Then I could remove the sled, flip the slab over, and flatten the other face, removing the ridge left by the jointer. With the slabs perfectly flat, I could join the edge at the jointer before ripping off about 1 inch from each slab at the table saw. And this removed a lot of those cracked sections of the slabs near the pith, and also brought the total width of the two slabs to about 21 inches, including the gap between them, which is the width I wanted for the headboard. With the slabs flattened and milled to final dimension, except for their length, I could move on to working on the other parts of the bed frame, starting with the legs. And I do have plans available for this bed, which include dimensions for the legs to allow you to create your own templates, and I'll have a link to the plans in the cards as well as in the video description in case you're interested. After laying out the shape of the template on a couple pieces of scrap plywood, I rough cut the template at the bandsaw, staying as close to my line as possible. Once the shape was rough cut, I could refine the edges, first using the jointer for the outside faces of the legs, and then using a combination of the oscillating belt sander, chisels, and hand sanding on the inside faces. With the templates complete, I rough cut the legs to size over the miter saw. I used 8/4 ash for the leg stock and found this perfect rift-sawn board for the legs. And rift-sawn lumber is extremely stable and is ideal for making legs, so I really lucked out with this board. And you can see the diagonal ingrain pattern on this board, which indicates that the board was rift-sawn. After cutting the leg stock to rough length, I milled the board square on 4 sides using the jointer, planer, and table saw, ripping them to their final width of 5 inches at the table saw. Finally, I could cut the boards to final length at the miter saw. And you might be wondering why I milled the boards to final dimension before cutting the shape, and that's because I needed to cut my joinery on the legs before cutting them to shape. And this makes things much easier as it gives you a lot more of a reference surface when cutting your joinery. I decided to use dominoes for the joinery on the headboard and footboard, although dowel joinery would work in the exact same way. So first I marked out my layout lines and then cut the mortises using the domino. And I didn't get on camera, but I marked the lines for the domino with all 4 legs clamped together and the bottom of the legs even to ensure that the front rail and back rail were spaced evenly from the floor. I also like to add arrows to indicate which side of the board I'm supposed to cut the mortises on so I don't accidentally cut them on the wrong face, which I've done many times. Next, I needed to cut mortises for this locking bed hardware from Rockler, which is used to allow the bed to be taken apart when moving. And since I had to create 4 of these mortises, I knocked out a quick jig using some scrap plywood. So I marked a line 1/16 of an inch in from the inside edge of the leg, lined up the inside edge of the jig with that line and also square to the bottom of the leg, and then routed out the mortise. And once again, the jig references off the bottom of the leg, which will keep the side rails parallel to each other. Once the mortise was routed in, I traced the area where the hooks go into the leg, and then removed those areas at the drill press with a 1/4 inch Forstner bit. And I could have created another jig for this, but these slots didn't really need to be precise and aren't seen in the finished piece. After drilling out the slots, I cleaned them up with a chisel and then test fit the hardware to make sure it fit, which it did. With that, all the joinery was cut on the legs except for the mortises to attach the slabs to the legs, which will be cut later since they reference off the front edge of the final leg shape. So I could then start cutting the legs to shape, which I did over the bandsaw. And I made sure to trace the outline of the leg onto both faces of the leg blank, which allowed me to use either side of the piece face down on the bandsaw. I made sure to stay about 1/8 of an inch proud of the line when rough cutting the shape, and I didn't want to leave too much material to remove over at the router, but I also didn't want to cut it too close and not be able to follow my template. Once the legs were rough cut, I could attach the template to the leg using double-sided tape, making sure the face with the mortise for the bed hardware was perfectly flush to the template, along with the ends of the legs. Since the legs were 1 3/4 inches thick, I needed to make the cut in 2 passes. And this flush trim bit is really handy because the bearings can be removed, so I removed the top bearing for that first pass. And this allowed the bottom bearing to ride on the template, which was on the bottom of the piece at this point. And I set the height of the bit to cut about half of the material and made sure to use the starter pin when starting the cut to avoid tear out. And I repeated the same process on the other legs, getting half of the edges of the legs flushed up, and then I reinstalled the top bearing, flipped the legs over so the rough edge was towards the table, and rode the bearing of the bit on the smooth surface of the leg that I had just flushed up. And as you can see, you're left with an essentially perfect leg, save for a tiny ridge between the 2 passes, which can easily be cleaned up with a sander. The last bit of work to do on the legs was to clean up the inside edge of the mortise, and the wall here was only about 1/16 of an inch and was extremely fragile, so I decided it was best to just remove it, and I used a chisel to do this, but you could just make your jig accordingly and be able to skip this step. Next, I could get to work on the side, front, and back rails, all of which were made from 6/4 ash, and I cut the boards to rough length at the miter saw, ripped them to rough width at the table saw, and then milled them square. And while I'm milling, let's talk about the sponsor of this week's video, Powermatic, the gold standard. So I upgraded to the Powermatic PJ882 helical head jointer and 15HH helical head planer a little over a year ago, and they've been a total game changer for my woodworking. The surface finish off of these machines is just absolutely amazing, and I know they'll last me for many years to come. They get used on basically every project I make and really make my woodworking more efficient and just more fun. To learn more about these machines, check out the link in the video description below, and thanks again to Powermatic for sponsoring this week's video. Next, I cut the rails to their final dimension at the table saw and miter saw. And you can see that I had to add a stop to my miter station since my stop block doesn't go to 75 inches, and I made sure to leave the stop in place after cutting the front rail so that I could cut the slabs to that exact same length later on. Next, I needed to cut the joinery on the front and back rails. To do this, I transferred the layout lines from one of the legs to a scrap piece of plywood, and then used a combination square to transfer those marks to both ends of the front and back rails. I could then cut the mortises into the rails, making sure to adjust the offset of the bit so I would have the correct offset between the legs and the rails. So with that, all the joinery was cut except for the slab headboard, so I could test fit the frame and make sure everything lined up. To install the bed hardware plates, I pre-drilled holes using a self-centering bit and attached them using number 6 screws. And the final screws I used were much longer than this, but these were the screws I had on hand when test fitting. For the plates with the hooks, I offset them from the top edge of the rail about 1/8 of an inch to make sure the top edge of the rails lined up with the top of the legs, and also made sure the plates were square to the rails and flush with the end. With the hardware installed, I did a quick test fit and was really happy with the way the bed was coming together. I loved the slight splay to the legs, and everything just lined up perfectly. I took some quick measurements for the center support beam, marked out where I needed to add an edge profile, and then took everything apart to prep for finish. So I debated on the edge profile for the frame pieces and even put up a poll on my Instagram stories, but I ultimately decided on a light chamfer. And this not only matches the angular look of the bed, but it's also extremely easy to clean up the chamfers, whereas roundovers require a ton of hand sanding. Also, you might notice the bearing on the chamfer bit doesn't really work on the angled ends of the legs, so I had to clean those up with my block plane, which I love using, so that definitely wasn't a big deal. I also added the same chamfer to all the edges of the rails as well. Once the frame parts were chamfered, I sanded them up to 180 grit with my random orbit sander, and I also hit the chamfers with 180 grit to smooth them out. I could also go ahead and glue up the footboard assembly at this point, which went really smoothly, although some super long clamps would have definitely come in handy here. Before gluing up the headboard assembly, I needed to get the slabs ready for finish, which involved a good bit of work. First, I cleaned up the edges of the slabs, removing any big pieces of bark with a chisel and refining the shape a bit with a spoke shave and random orbit sander. And I also removed any loose debris with a wire brush. And this slab had a good bit of bug damage and had already lost most of its bark, so I was really just removing the last bits that were hanging on. And speaking of bug damage, the slab had plenty of these bug tracks packed with sawdust, and I decided to stabilize the dust by soaking it with thin CA glue. And this soaked right into the dust, and then I hit it with some activator to make it dry instantly. Next, I wanted to fill some of the cracks with epoxy, both to stabilize the slab and also make the surface nice and smooth. First, I taped the underside of the cracks with foil tape, and once I ran out of foil tape, painter's tape, and then used this pressure roller to make sure the tapes bonded really well to the slab. For the epoxy, I used Total Boat High Performance with their medium hardener, which is a nice happy medium in regards to cure time. I added some dark gray pigment to the epoxy, mixed it for a few minutes, and then filled the cracks. And this big crack on the surface of the slab soaked up a bunch of epoxy, but I eventually got it filled in after 2 pours. And these cracks on the side of the slab were also a little bit tricky, but I was afraid these edges would be a little bit fragile otherwise. After the second pour cured overnight, I cleaned up the live edges, removing all of the excess epoxy to prepare for the next step. So to finish the live edge, I wanted to experiment with this process I saw on another build video recently, which I'll link to in the cards. The process involves burning the live edge and then sealing it with tabletop epoxy. And burning the edge helped to even out the color of the live edge and also helped it to flow in with the color of the legs. So after burning, I removed any ash or excess residue with a quick blast of compressed air, and then added 2 coats of Total Boat tabletop epoxy to the edge. And this did 2 things. First, it sealed all of those charred bits and meant they wouldn't flake off onto our pillows later. And second, it made the live edge extremely smooth to the touch, which meant it wouldn't get snagged on any of our pillows later. So I guess really our pillows were the main priority here, evidently. So after brushing on the tabletop epoxy, I wiped off any excess drips, allowed it to dry for about 4 hours, and then added a second coat. And I was amazed at how the epoxy soaked into that grain of the wood, and the second coat was definitely a necessity. So even though I wiped off the excess epoxy, there were still some drips during the time the epoxy cured, and I wanted to clean up the bottom of the slab completely so I could pass the whole thing through my planer. I found that a card scraper does a great job of removing excess epoxy, but a belt sander or Festool Rotex in my case also works great. Once the excess epoxy was removed from the bottom, I could pass the slabs through the planer and remove the excess epoxy from the top, which is really where the bulk of the excess was from filling those cracks earlier. I made sure to take really light passes at this point, as I was getting some tear out in some of those highly figured areas of the slabs. Finally, I could get the slabs cut to their final length at the miter saw, and remember how I said I left that stop block set up from when I cut the front rail and back rail to final length? Well, that really came in handy here and ensured that the slabs and those rails were exactly the same length. So with the slabs at their final length, I could cut the last little bit of joinery on this project. First, I marked out some lines for the domino, which I just roughly spaced evenly on the ends of the slabs. Since they varied in width, there really wasn't a good way for them all to match. After cutting the dominoes, I held the legs up to the slabs and transferred the lines to the legs. And as you can see, I had the slabs clamped in place with the spacing I wanted. I made sure they were square to each other, and I also marked out the spacing on the legs themselves just to make sure everything lined up correctly. And then I could cut the mortises into the legs, again adjusting the offset of the domino to create the offset I wanted between the face of the slab and the edge of the leg, about 1/4 of an inch in this case. After cutting the joinery, I could test fit the headboard, and it fit great, and most importantly, looked awesome. Next, I could go ahead and get everything finished. So I sanded the slab up to 180 grit, scuffed the tabletop epoxy with 500 grit just to reduce the gloss, and then sprayed on a few coats of satin polyacrylic. For the bed frame pieces, I used this black tinted polyurethane, which I linked to in the video description, and I sprayed it on using my HVLP system. Now I was going to use the India ink method that I've used previously to ebonize wood, but that has to be wiped on and then top coated with poly, so this black poly definitely saved me a ton of time. I also made sure to tape off all the mortises before applying finish on both the frame pieces as well as the slabs to avoid screwing up those glue surfaces. With the finish applied to the pieces, I could finally glue up the headboard assembly, which was a little stressful due to the sheer number of mortises and the extra long clamping area, but I eventually got it clamped up, adding another set of clamps on the backside of the headboard off camera. Once the glue up dried, I reinstalled all the hardware, assembled the bed frame, and then I could start working on the final parts of the bed frame, which included the center support beam and the side support rails. For the center support beam, I had this leftover piece of ambrosia maple that was just about the perfect size, so I cut it to length and then added some support legs, attaching them with dominoes. And this support beam is attached using these rockler center bed rail fasteners, which allow the center rail to be removed easily when moving. For the side support rails, I used some leftover poplar I had on hand, and I milled the strips to size, and then I needed to notch out the area where the locking bed hardware was situated on the side rails, which I did on the table saw. To attach the support rails to the side rails, I drilled and tapped some holes using my Wood Whisperer thread taps, which have worked extremely well for me in the past. And by attaching these support rails using tapped holes, it allows me to adjust the height of the mattress or just remove the support rails entirely if I get a different type of mattress platform in the future. For the slats, I used these pre-primed pine 1x3s from Lowe's. I cut them to length with the miter saw and then attached the slats with 1¼ screws, adding 1 screw at each end of the board into the support rails and then another screw into the center beam. I also numbered the slats off camera so that I could install them in the same order later. And then I could assemble the entire bed in its final home in our bedroom. The assembly process goes extremely quickly, with the locking bed hardware dropping into place, the safety latch then pivots into place, and then you add 1 button head screw to each corner to keep the latch in place. The center beam then drops into place, and then the slats can be spread out across the length of the bed. After that, add your mattress and some bedding, and you've got a finished bed. And with that, this bed project was done.
All right, hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. As I said in the intro, I just absolutely love the way this thing turned out. I am so glad I picked this slab out of all the slabs that were available at my local slab place, Asheville Hardware. It is just so gorgeous, so much character, tons of weird, funky, beautiful grain. It's just really, really awesome. And those 2 edges really lined up perfectly when I faced them towards each other. Again, I do have plans available for this project in case you guys want to build one of these for yourself. It's really not that difficult of a project in the techniques used. It's just all of the pieces were really big and kind of cumbersome to move around, and there are just so many parts and pieces to deal with and so much joinery. But I think anybody with, basic woodworking knowledge could totally tackle a project like this, especially if you buy pre-milled lumber. You could save a ton of the work that I had to do on this project. I also have links to all the tools and materials I used in the video description below. Also, I do have these new t-shirts, these build it yourself shirts. I love the way these came out. I have these available on tons of different merch, men's t-shirts, women's t-shirts, stickers, coffee mugs, all kinds of stuff. So I'll have links to those in the video description as well as on the screen. And last, I have added that YouTube membership functionality to the channel. That allows you to get some kind of behind the scenes content. I've been doing some shop updates every couple of weeks and just kind of giving people a peek behind the scenes to see what I'm working on. So if you want to check that out, check out the link on the screen here or in the video description below. All right, thanks again for watching, everybody. And until next week, happy building.